Hello, I'm Tarık Toros. Welcome to What's Happening in Turkey. A month since İmamoğlu's arrest. It has now been a month since Ekrem İmamoğlu, the mayor of Istanbul, and the most prominent political rival of President Erdoğan, was arrested. His detention marked a turning point in Turkish politics. Since then, public protests have intensified and the country's economic crisis has deepened. Many citizens are rapidly losing faith in the electoral process as a viable path to change. Most independent journalists and prominent public commentators are either imprisoned or have been forced into silence. The latest to step back is political scientist and columnist Nuray Mert, who published a farewell article on the 9th of April. In it, she wrote, "I'm scared because our country is going through a dark tunnel and no one knows where it leads. No matter the result of the latest case against me, I've decided to stop writing political commentary, something I always saw as my duty as a citizen." High school students joined the resistance. The protest movement is not limited to adults. In the wake of İmamoğlu's arrest, hundreds of thousands took to the streets, including high school students. The students are demanding the return of their teachers, many of whom were abruptly removed by the Ministry of Education without explanation. The protests have now continued for several days, with students calling for transparency and accountability in education policy. A health crisis that halted parliament. On the 15th of April, Sırrı Süreyya Önder, a beloved political figure and the deputy speaker of Turkey's parliament, suffered a major heart attack and was hospitalized. He remains in intensive care and unconscious. Önder played a critical role in past negotiations between the Turkish state and Kurdish political movements, the so-called peace process. In an extraordinary move, parliament halted all activity for 2 days following his collapse, a gesture of respect rarely seen in Turkish politics. Financial shockwaves after İmamoğlu's arrest. The economic fallout from İmamoğlu's arrest has been severe. The Istanbul stock market plunged, and the Turkish lira saw a sharp decline. In a desperate move to stabilize the market, the central bank sold $50 billion in foreign reserves, yet failed to restore investor confidence. It later raised interest rates to an astonishing 46%, giving Turkey the world's second highest rate after Venezuela. Officially, the country now has the 6th highest inflation rate globally, though independent analysts suggest the true number is significantly higher. Meanwhile, prices continue to soar. The New York Post recently reported that a Big Mac meal at Istanbul airport now costs $29, making it arguably the most expensive airport meal in the world. Cracks within Erdoğan's regime. Signs of internal tension within the ruling coalition are growing. Following İmamoğlu's surge in popularity, President Erdoğan moved aggressively. 5 separate indictments were filed against the mayor. His university degree was annulled, and then he was jailed. Plans to replace him, and even his opposition party, the CHP, with government-appointed trustees, were paused but remain a frequent topic in pro-government media. Last week, a journalist known to be close to Erdoğan reported that a trustee appointed to CHP was imminent. The stock market immediately dropped by 6%. The government denied the claim, and the journalist was briefly detained before being released. Erdoğan's nationalist coalition partner, MHP leader Devlet Bahçeli, openly pushed back, saying, "Appointing a trustee to CHP would be wrong and impossible." The two leaders haven't appeared publicly together in months. Rumors of deep disagreements continue to swirl, with some sources suggesting Erdoğan was frustrated with the judicial team handling İmamoğlu's case, reportedly asking, "Wasn't this case supposed to be strong?" Erdoğan may have expected a quick political gain, but instead triggered economic turmoil and heightened public unrest, a gamble that may have backfired. A lawyer released, then rearrested. On the 16th of April, prominent human rights lawyer Selçuk Kozağaçlı was quietly released from prison, where he had been held since 2017 on terrorism-related charges. The release came without prior notice. However, within 24 hours, he was detained again, this time for allegedly failing to show good behavior during his incarceration. He was promptly returned to prison. Kozağaçlı is widely regarded as one of Turkey's most principled defense lawyers, and his case further highlights the arbitrariness of judicial decisions in the country. Free speech suppressed across borders. Free expression in Turkey is now virtually non-existent. Over the past month, even digital platforms have begun silencing dissent. X, formerly Twitter, has started hiding accounts inside Turkey without court orders. This week, Blue Sky, a new platform touted as a haven for free speech, also began blocking Turkish users at the government's request. This trend reflects how Ankara is exporting its censorship model internationally, pressuring platforms to comply with authoritarian demands. Digital exile, global reach. As domestic journalism is strangled, independent reporting has migrated abroad. A leading example is investigative journalist Cevheri Güven, now living in exile in Germany. This week, he spoke with the Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung, one of Germany's top newspapers. "We'll always find a way to reach people." Güven has become a key target of the Erdoğan regime due to his exposes on state corruption and organized crime. His family now lives under full-time police protection. Back in 2015, he was the editor of Nokta, a Turkish magazine. He was jailed after publishing a cover critical of Erdoğan's Kurdish policies. In prison, he shared a cell block with fellow journalist Can Dündar. Today, his life is strictly monitored. He wears an emergency alert bracelet, must notify police before leaving home, and lives at an undisclosed address. Yet in what he calls digital exile, he reaches millions. His YouTube channel, launched in 2017, now has over 700,000 subscribers. His investigative reports on deep state operations, mafia networks, and political scandals regularly attract millions of views. However, Güven says his visibility has been artificially reduced by YouTube under pressure from the Turkish government. He rejects all accusations of terrorism. "That's not true. I'm just a journalist." He believes the Turkish government is deliberately criminalising journalism, branding reporters as enemies to silence dissent. But he insists independent journalism is ultimately about defending the public's right to know. You are not alone, Cevheri. Nor are the millions who still believe in truth. I am Tarık Toros. You have been watching What's Happening in Turkey. See you next week.